right, QB9 is Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik from Clemson University. University of Clemson. I keep getting those wrong. I don't even know what they are. Clemson Tigers, QB9, Cade Klubnik. I am lower on Klubnik than a lot. You're probably you might see him in some people's top 5 quarterbacks still. I think that's crazy. I don't see it at all. I did a whole podcast on basically the next two quarterbacks. The next two quarterbacks I'm going to talk about are the most high recruits, still getting the benefit of the doubt, if you will. High recruit from high school, high flashes, has shown flashes, good tools, good physical tools, looks the part, feels the part, just never had the on-field success. So that's why I warn teams about drafting these guys, because I think these guys are kind of labeled as projects and more just ideas at the quarterback position, because they were big recruits from high school and they were supposed to be really good. They were supposed to be very good in college and they just weren't for whatever reason. So, I'm a little lower on Klubnik than others, but you still see coming into this season, this was a guy who still was getting number 1 overall pick buzz, Heisman buzz. Clemson was getting championship buzz. And I thought it was all crazy. I thought we got wildly overrated on him. I'm probably too low now. I'm probably a little maybe unfair to the kid even, but I just kept waiting for more out of Cade Klubnik for all 4 seasons at Clemson, and I never saw it. And I truly don't know what people are still waiting for or what they think is there or left. I don't get it, man, with this guy. So basic numbers for Klubnik. Let's go over them. Height, 6'2". So average physical tools. So 6'2", weight 207. Not a big guy. 6'2" is fine. Again, that passes the threshold. There's plenty of NFL starters who are 6'2". He is one of the younger prospects in this class. I do want to point that out and give him credit there. 22 years old only, 22.4. He might be the oldest on my list. Let me go through the ages real quick. Oh, no, there's one younger. But 22.4 is good age, and he is a true 4th year compared to a lot of these guys who are 5th or 6th years, some even 7th, whatever. But his record as a starter just leaves more to be desired at a program like Clemson. 27-14 in your 4 years at Clemson is just awful. I'm sorry. That's rude to say, but 27-14 at Clemson in 4 seasons is just not good. That's not getting it done, man, and that's not winning at the highest level compared to the previous quarterbacks who came before you, Clemson. You saw guys like Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, never lose games, ever, and win championships and win Heismans or not Heisman. Well, they never won Heisman. Davey O'Brien's, but you get the point. And Klubnik is a guy, the tools aren't really there. The stats were never really there. The wins were never really there. So what really is there is kind of my thoughts on him. And maybe it's weird. Maybe I should have Aguilar higher than him. There's clearly something Cade is doing that other people are seeing and because I think I'm consensus lowest on him. But let's go over the stats. Basic passing numbers, 5.6 completion percentage, which is fine. Again, I said I want to see over 65. He finally got over 65 in his final season. He was sitting at 63 for his career at Clemson. First few seasons, I believe he finished with a 63 completion percentage, which is just subpar. So adjusted completion rate, however, was 77.6. So this is where I will give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt here, and I won't rag on him too much here because Clemson's receiving core has been bad for a couple of seasons now, and just their whole offense has been bad for a couple of seasons now. Klubnik has never been the problem at Clemson. Let me say that. Let me make that clear because I want to be fair to the kid. He has never been the issue on Clemson's offense, but he's also not been the solution. And you have to be the solution. We talked about elevating others. We talked about being a leader, winning games for your team. Klubnik doesn't do that. He's a solid game manager, a solid point guard. He didn't really lose them a ton. I mean, he did lose them plenty of games, but I wouldn't say he was specifically the reason they lost games this past year, especially. Clemson's whole season, take that with a grain of salt. That team quit on each other after week 4. So Klubnik wasn't the reason they lost all those games this season, but like I've said before, he wasn't the reason they were going to win them either. So take that as you will. Back to the stats, 2,900 passing yards. He did miss a game. I think he missed 2 games due to injury this past year, so his 2024 season was much better, and the tape he put out that season was better, but he could have gone pro and chose to come back and probably hurt his stock now. So it is, you never want to see, you always want to see your best year right before you enter the pros. It's kind of just like you always want to keep getting better. He did get better. He did get a lot better compared to year 1 and 2, and we'll get into that. But only 7.5 yards per pass, 16 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Their interceptions are fine. He probably should have more. Like he threw more turnover-worthy plays according to PFF than interceptions. So 6 interceptions the past 2 years. I believe he had 36 touchdowns a year ago to only 16 this year. 17 sacks, 39 passer rating. Again, that's kind of subpar. Decent athlete. Cade can get outside the pocket. Cade can run a little bit. I will give him credit there. He's a better athlete than some of the quarterbacks on this list, some of the guys who are even higher than him. Always just kind of put up average advanced metrics as well. So PFF grade is one of the lower ones on this list, 76.5 only, which if you're an elite quarterback, you always want to see the 90, at least over 80. But 76.5 compared to a Pro Football Network impact score of 79.2. However, the QBR is what really dings him here. The QBR is the lowest on this list by far, 62.7. Of the 15 quarterbacks, 62.7. There is a little bit of correlation from losses to QBR, like losing the game, the QBR, you get a worse QBR if your team loses. So that affected him a little bit this year. I won't put that entirely on him because, like I said, that Clemson offense was pretty abysmal and he wasn't the main issue with it. But wins above average, 0.361. So still helping his team win, but you'd like to see a little higher wins above average there, but 0.631. Next gen combine stats. So this is what kind of helped him, and I think this is why scouts are still interested in him and maybe might want to take a chance on him in this draft. Production score was a 73, which was 4th overall. Athleticism score was a 78, which was 6th overall. Again, decent athlete, probably a better athlete than I've given him credit for, honestly. So, and the total score was a 76, which was third among the quarterbacks at the combine. So take that as you will. I do think that it intrigues scouts and is a reason, him being one of the youngest QB prospects left. Maybe there is something there that some scout will be salivating at him and want to take him and take a chance. So some strengths and weaknesses that I've got. So here's the strengths I've had. He's a hard worker and he's known as a good kid. I've heard he's a great kid. I've heard he has a good work ethic, hard work ethic, good leader for Clemson. I've watched him in interviews. Seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, bright, smart kid. A guy you want to play for in the huddle, I guess. And that stuff, some people overrate that stuff. I think that stuff does matter when you are commanding a huddle and commanding a room and being the leader of men that you have to be as a quarterback. So I've heard that stuff is like good in Cade's favor and that he will light up the interview process and teams will fall in love with him as a person. So that's always good. He certainly improved over his 4 years at Clemson. If you watch his sophomore year tape compared to now, it is night and day, man. This kid worked his ass off to get to where he is now, so I will give him credit there. He is so much better now than he was back then. Even in his first year, he kind of lit it up his freshman year, and then second year was rough. A junior year kind of really blew up and led Clemson back to the playoffs, and that was kind of why everyone thought it was going to continue on into this senior year. And the team was just not it. The offense was not it. However, he was never the problem. Again, like we said, maybe that's not a strength. I don't know if that's a strength that you weren't the problem because he wasn't really the solution. But Cade was efficient. Cade was fine. And Cade was not the reason they lost 6 games this past season. I'll just say that. weaknesses. So what I was talking about earlier, there's no special traits that make him stand out. And what I mean by this is like physical traits and physical capabilities. We were talking about like if he was a big guy, like 6'6" with a huge arm and like could run and like, I would almost understand more like why we were still waiting on him, which we'll get into my next quarterback who fits that bill a little bit more. You guys will see what I'm talking about. Like if he had elite physical tools, I would get it and I would understand it. And I would probably say like, yeah, maybe take him in day 2 or something, in the 4th round or whatever. But he's a smaller quarterback, has a mid arm, doesn't really have a great arm, like weird arm delivery, not the prettiest arm delivery to watch, not the prettiest quarterback to watch throw a football. Like if you just flip on the tape, it's not enjoyable to watch in terms of like operating an offense and commanding the offense. But so that's where I'm like, maybe I'm missing something there, but that's why I'm like, I don't know what physical tools I'm really latching onto here. Another weakness, lost a lot of big games for Clemson. So he has more losses, like we said, 27-14. He has more losses total than the previous 4 quarterbacks that Clemson have combined. Think about that. So like the Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson's, Trevor Lawrence, like he has more losses combined than each of those quarterbacks have between the 3 of them. So that's just like, coming off a team, I know Clemson has not been the juggernaut they've been. They've not had the receivers they've been. They haven't had the defense they've had in years past. But, like, I don't know, man. That's not a good sign when you are expected to be the next star at Clemson who was getting all the recruiting hype. And this is the final weakness. He's a high recruit, still getting the benefit of the doubt. And what I mean by that is, like, I think there are scouts and pro teams that are still clinging to what he could be coming out of high school and what they thought he might be coming into Clemson this year. And he just was not that. Again, probably like the quarterback I was waiting on the most to really see blow up this season and was just disappointed. So I have him lower than a lot of quarterbacks have him at my QB9. My NFL projection for him, now I would draft him in the 7th. I do think he will get drafted. I'd probably get drafted higher than that even. Again, I'm probably lower on Cade than most, but I just am not really sure what we're waiting for. When you didn't win a lot of games, you didn't really elevate others around you, and you kind of had all the recruiting hype and didn't really show it. So I'm just kind of waiting for more. And when you test a little lower, like physicality-wise, like in terms of measurables, I'm just going to naturally probably have you lower on my QB board than others. So, again, 7th round grade on him. My NFL player count for him is Clayton Tune, a former Houston quarterback. Clayton Tune, but he's probably a better athlete than Tune. They have similar arms. Cade can run a little bit. It's interesting. Like, he had like 400 rushing yards last year and had less than 100 this year. So, like, Clemson didn't really utilize him in their offense at all compared to last season. I think that was part of the reason people were clinging to him was like, oh, there is some rushing ability there. I don't think there's any rushing ability. I don't think he's that fast or super athletic. He's a better athlete than Clayton Tune, but that's my NFL comp for him. Team fits would be the Carolina Panthers or the Houston Texans. Panthers, he's low moving costs in Charlotte with Clemson, and they could use a QB3. So there you go, Cade Klubnik, QB9.